fashion is littered with flashbacks to earlier times. Now the short history of computer gaming is reviving its own equivalent of flares, the reappearance of classic games from the 70s on today's PCs. We asked online journalist Dan O'Brien to review this retro gaming phenomenon, but surely he's too young to remember.
Gorf, Sinistar, Battlezone, Qbert, Donkey Kong, Galaxians, Pac-Man, Space Invaders. In 1981, the papers reported a 13-year-old schoolboy sold his body in a car park for 10 games of Space Invaders. I was 12 and playing in a shed round the back of the fish and chip shop on Duke Street, Chelmsford. Space Invaders, one of the first shoot-'em-ups, and certainly one of the first video games to get a cult following. When it was introduced to Japan, the entire country ran out of 100 yen coins. So addictive that it was. Funorama, fun and games, pirates and slots of fun. These early arcades harboured the first mass computer culture, which spilt out into every single niche. There were Atari Force comics, there were Pac-Man songs, there was Tron, of course. This was most people's first experience of a keyboard, a VDU, a CPU. William Gibson grabbed the images of the arcades when he wrote Neuromancer. It was all he'd seen of the computer age. It was enough. County libraries filled up with how-to-win guides to the games. This one's written by Martin Amis. Yes, the Martin Amis. He writes, "Remember that the Pac-Man Power Pack is a legitimate defensive tool." And who could disagree? There isn't anyone else in these games. They're not networked, and two-player just meant waiting for your turn. Their clunky, hypnotic graphics are custom-made for an only child with a lot of 10p's. Everyone I knew wanted to be an only child then. I'd have sold my brother for a machine in my room. You can sacrifice the humanoids, but don't lose the last one. What these old games encourage more than anything is hyper-focusing. The whole of your concentration is devoted to tweaking the smallest set of variables. An ability to hyperfocus is prized amongst programmers, Zen Buddhists and guards of nuclear silos. One of the symptoms of attention deficit disorder is an exaggerated ability to hyperfocus, combined with a reciprocal inability to concentrate at all the remainder of the time. Training young people to hyperfocus using state-of-the-art equipment installed in every town and village led to introverted lives, consumer apathy, a multi-billion-dollar software industry, and MTV. Hyperspace only in emergencies. Eugene Jarvis was the god who invented this, Defender. Like most of his contemporaries, Eugene and his team of 4 invented the screen, the chips, the code, the plot, even the keyboard. The whole Defender machine was written from scratch. Jarvis himself coded most of the game in 2 weeks after seeing how it worked in a dream. It still stands as one of the best games ever written. In the 80s, they were filling this empty world of computer interactivity from scratch. People like Eugene set the standard and defined the form. At age 25, Eugene implemented in Defender the smart bomb. This was a decade before the Gulf War. Even the Pentagon had to play catch-up to Eugene Jarvis. In level 2, get in front of the bombers, swivel and fire. Eugene once said, "The only legitimate purpose of a computer is to play games." Here were games for people who weren't very good at games. If you had reasonably fast reflexes, were intelligent, and had a lot of time on your hands, you too could be cool. It was like reading, the same addictiveness, the same closed-off nature, only in this particular case, your peers still respected you in the morning. On one level, you knew you were wasting your life away, but on another, well, what clearer achievement is there than to be smoking a cigarette as you casually entered your top 10 high score? You're a Robotron hero. Enter your initials. And now they're back. 15 years since we all grew up. These games are making a reappearance on our home PCs, perfectly replicated in every detail. Not a byte of code has changed. Instead, new Jarvises, new obsessives, hyper-focusing sons of Robotron have painstakingly simulated every nook and cranny of those old consoles. The graphics are clunky, the sound is mono, bleepy, incoherent. But I know this game. I've grown up and I've got better. I live on my own now and I have enough 10p pieces to last me, oh, well, a week or 2. This time I can win. Game over. Insert coin.